anybody that's here live, and as well as people that might be watching the replay. Uh, I know about half the people that speak to me each week about my workshops say that they watch them on the replay and they're not joining live, and I totally get it. So again, regardless of whether you're here live, I feel is better because you can ask questions and we can be much more specific to your particular situation, problem, business model, etc. But regardless whether you are here live and able to do that or not, again, I feel what I put together today was pretty valuable. And the reason I say that is just based off all the feedback. In my role here of director of client relations at AudienceLab, I pretty much work as closer with a lot of our DaaS agency clients as most people on the team, outside of maybe the tech side of things. I know you might work with other guys when it comes to, your integrations or your list building, and actually part of those things will be discussed today. But my role on these workshops is more around the marketing and sales, more about getting revenue into your DaaS agencies. And that's what I'm going to prioritize today. So I think I might see a new face or two here on the workshop. I know we only have 3 or 4 people currently on. And kind of what I would like to start with is I'm going to go over the resource that I come and I drop in this link. I'm sorry, I drop in to all the participants on this workshop each week. So the first thing I'm going to do really quick, guys, is I'm just going to go post the link to the document I am going to be covering right here in the Zoom chat. So if you look in the Zoom chat, you're going to see the link to a Google Doc, and that is going to be the initial thing that I am sharing and covering on my screen that you can, or momentarily will be able to see here. And again, this is a resource that I give to you guys in the beginning of your time with AudienceLab when you have that one-on-one call with me, and I send you a recap email. And I highlight it to start off each one of these workshops because this is the most relevant and important resource regarding the selling of the data and building out that sales process and do it effectively. So again, the link's already in the chat there, guys, and anybody that's not familiar, this is just a quick little overview of everything I would do as a DaaS agency, whether I was starting my DaaS agency from scratch, and this is kind of my sole deliverable, I'm a data agency, or I'm bolting DaaS or data as a service onto my existing agency. I was already a white label GHL agency. I was already a Facebook agency, a copywriting, and I'm kind of bolting this on. So regardless of kind of which of those buckets you fall into, number one is exactly how I would build out my sales process. Number two is a tutorial where I go over that document and I kind of screen share and show you in real time what that looks like throughout our sales process, throughout our sales funnel, etc. Now, you'll see if you go through number one, I recommend a 2-call sales process, right? Call number one, the triage call. Here's a script or a framework I've already built out for you. Call number two, your sales or your demo call. Here's a script or your framework already built out for you. Number 6 on the screen for anybody unfamiliar with this is a copy of the authority pitch deck we give to you guys that I recommend you use on some, if not all, of your sales presentations. And again, really quickly, nothing here is branded to AudienceLab, so when you download it, make your own copy. Swap out the first slide with your own company image, logo, what have you, and then a short handful of slides showing your market, exactly how we find their targeted audience, exactly how we take that audience and loop it into their advertising, their marketing campaigns, exactly how we resolve the identity of their bounce visitors, etc. There's about a half dozen or a dozen different case studies within that pitch deck you guys can leverage as you start to build out your own. Number 7 is a tutorial more specific to our Super Pixel, our identity resolution tool. If you guys find you are selling or working with clients or speaking with clients that drive pretty significant existing traffic to a landing page or a website month in and month out, you're going to watch that tutorial. You're going to want to watch that tutorial and understand, number one, how to assess if they're a good fit and get a rough guess of the ROI they should see. And number 2, the different ways you can go package, price, and position that. Number 8 on the screen is about 20 or so of my sales call recordings. As I've said quite a few times, I've got some great feedback from some of you guys that have said, Ray, listening to 2 or 3 of your sales call recordings really helped me lock down the terminology and the verbiage I should be using, or taking some of my style and adapting it to their approach has helped them. So again, guys, this document, which I already dropped the link in the chat there, and Zoom has everything you need from scripts, frameworks, call recordings, pitch decks, right? Everything you need to go build out your sales process. And then before I dive into kind of the bulk of today's lesson, did anybody hop onto this call with a question that they want to dive into and kind of start off with? So Again, normally I do this even before I kind of dive into going over that resource I give away. But I want to be very cognizant of everybody's time. And I know each week I'll have one or two people that hop in. And they're like, "Hey, Ray, I just want this question answered." And then then they go or whatever. So if anybody hopped in here with a specific question or topic they wanted to cover or pick my brain on, feel free to go drop a one in the chat and I will call on you. And if I don't see anything, or in the meantime, I'll start diving into what I plan to cover until I see something in the chat. And guys, keep in mind, you can also hold your questions to the end. I'm going to do a Q&A, and you may have some questions, based on what I cover here today and today's topic. So I will be checking back at the chat here, periodically throughout today's workshop. But let me go into what I put together for this week's lesson specifically, and let me kind of give you a little context to where this came about. So what's highlighted in yellow on my screen, I'm guessing, and again, there's only three or four of you on here now. Don't know if this is relevant to all of you. I'm willing to bet it's relevant to a minimum of one of you on this call right now, maybe everybody, and it certainly has been relevant to everybody at one time in. Okay, not everybody, 95% of people at one time in the program. I will say 3 or 4 or 5% of people I speak with pre-sell this to a client. They enroll through somebody else's funds, so they've never really invested their own money, or they're not trying to make their money back at any time. But again, that's 5% or less of the people that enroll into the program. But this is something I hear often, and I don't like hearing this from you guys. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I don't like hearing when people say, "Hey, I've been on your platform for X amount of months and I haven't been able to monetize the data or my AudienceLab subscription yet," and kind of go through why. So I had one specific inquiry with a client by the name of Jeff. I'm not going to use his last name because I didn't ask him for permission and I don't want to get too in depth. But I met with Jeff, or Jeff and I were messaging last week, and this was kind of one of his big things. He's like, "Ray, I'd love a one-on-one call where you could just give me a refresher or some talking points or look over what I'm doing wrong to monetize the data." I met with Jeff on Monday, so yesterday. We had about a 45-minute call, and I went through every aspect of what he was doing. I actually still have the notes from it, just so you guys can tell. I know it's just my chicken scratch, but I still have the notes from Jeff Call right in front of me. And I remember, again, kind of like it says highlighted in yellow, my note on his call and his initial statement was, "Haven't made any money yet trying to resell this," right? And my first thing back to anybody, I held back and I didn't just kind of go at Jeff, and that's not what I mean, go at Jeff. I didn't kind of pull this up right away. I wanted Jeff to have time to talk and explain everything, but I did circle back to this. And the first thing that pops into my mind, anytime anybody says this, and I can confidently say this going back to any offer I've ever sold or worked with people, whether I was coaching people or helping them launch their own expertise, their speaking business, their next book, their own agency, data as a service. I could go on and on. But whenever I've had this problem, the first thing that comes into my mind, guys, and the first question my first business coach always put back on me and held me accountable, and this is something that I really always put into my non-negotiables and made it so nobody could ask me this question anymore without me having a legitimate answer. But I haven't made any money using this, Ray. Great, Jeff. How many offers have you made? How many people are you making offers to daily, and how many people are we speaking to this about? Which ultimately leads to my next one. How many sales calls have we been on, and how does that process go? Because I know with a couple of you, again, maybe not on this call, but a couple of DaaS clients, more than a couple, we've done some one-on-one role plays of the sales process, and just doing that with me once has really vetted out a lot of issues that people knew how to now handle a sales call where they didn't even realize that they were. Again, I don't want to say it wrong because there's no real right or wrong way to do a sales call. There's just more effective or less effective. There's ways that build up less sales resistance and apprehension, or kind of increase the sales friction and resistance. There's ways that lead a prospect into a buying pocket, and there's ways that push them out of a buying pocket. So again, I don't like using the term right and wrong because I've seen a lot of people do sales calls in a way that I don't find very productive or ethical, but they've closed deals and made money. So I'm not going to, again, say right and wrong. I can easily say more or less effective approaches. And a lot of you guys are using very ineffective approaches, which we're able to dial out sometimes through a quick one-on-one call or a role play with a sales session. And guys, these workshops, just so you know, again, for you guys, you watching live or anyone on the replay, in the future, and I've always put this offer out there and I'm open to it, I would love to have somebody come on and role play sales calls, whether it's two of you guys with me sitting back being the coach, whether you want me in one of those roles and you want to be the sales rep and try me, whether you want to be my prospect and give me a hard time and let me be the sales rep and walk you through a call. All those different scenarios I'm open to doing on these workshops. I've done with certain clients in one-on-one settings, and I really think it makes a big difference. And that kind of goes into, once we start talking about how many offers we made and how often we're getting in conversations about our offer, next, it goes into our sales process, what we're going to kind of touch on, right? So throughout my call with Jeff, I don't think I went through all these things because after the call and between yesterday and today, I had a little more time to think about it and put this lesson together with likely a little more comprehensive resources and going over a couple things that maybe Jeff and I didn't cover. But certainly that call, the resources I sent him and kind of the game plan, we left that call with, hey, Jeff, if you go do these three things, there's no reason why you won't have 3 deals within the next 30 to 60 days. And guys, I said that to him very confidently. I truly think he can have more than that. I probably think that for damn near all of you, but especially the ones I work with one-on-one, I understand a bit more about the demographic, the approach, the strategy, the messaging, right? That's when I can really give some, more situational or individual feedback into how quick or how long it'll be or how successful I think somebody will and can be. I could say it generally, yeah, I think everyone can be successful and they all are and they all can be, but will everybody be? No. And again, some of that goes back down to this lesson. So what I want to boil down, what I want to show you guys is I really boiled this down to 6 things. And then there's a 7th down there in yellow that we'll get to. That's kind of a precursor to all these. And some of you guys, I'm sure, have been looking and reading these on the screen, but let me go through these one by one. Let me cover why I put these in here. And again, really quick before I do all that, let me just grab this link for y'all. Let me go throw it into the chat so everybody can follow along with me. Everybody has access to the document I'm covering and all the resources within. So there we go. I have that link copied. Me go into the chat. So now within the Zoom chat, guys, you're going to see the link to 2 different Google Docs. And that's exactly right. They are 2 different ones. The one that was dropped in there at 3:02 Eastern was the stellar resources that I go over on every one of the calls. The one at 3:12 Eastern is the link to this one currently on my screen. And the one I put together specifically for today's lesson. Like, I literally just finished this document this morning. So nobody had this link before today because this document wasn't here. But again, let's say we're all under the pretense, or you may have been, hey, Ray, I haven't been able to monetize the data or my membership yet since enrolling into AudienceLab. These are the things I want you all to go back through. So number 1 is the outreach approach and or channels we're using. And for example, once you guys are pulling the data off the platform, if you guys are pulling it off the platform and using it for yourself, I'm not saying everybody is, I'm not saying you need to be. I can do client acquisition in a lot of ways using all the different examples that are highlighted on my screen here right now, right? Whether I'm pulling data off the AudienceLab platform or not. I don't necessarily need it. And I know a lot of you guys pull the data and want to save the list to sell to your clients. So you're not necessarily using it for your own campaigns. Again, regardless if you are or aren't, I don't really think this changes at all. I don't think it changes at all. But number 1, again, how are we currently trying to get clients? So I was going through this the other day with Jeff, and he didn't have a solid answer outside of cold email. And then I asked him how many was he sending? Was he doing it consistently? What's the messaging? And he couldn't provide me with any of that, which just lets me know he's been doing a little email, and that's what he says is his channel, but it's not consistent. There's no real tracking. There's no real metrics. He doesn't have messaging to show me any of the things I need to look at to see if any of these channels would be effective. If you are running, again, if you're running ads, email, LinkedIn outreach, cold calling, SMS, you might be doing door knocking, home canvassing. There's all kinds of things, mailers, right? There's all kinds of things we can be doing, but it still comes down to the execution of the copy, the creative, the messaging. And we're going to dive into all that. But think to yourself, what outreach channels am I currently using? And if you don't have an answer or you're not currently doing it, think to yourself, what are the best practices and why aren't I doing it? And get started on 1, if not 2 of those different channels, right? So the first resource I put in there is a LinkedIn video I shot in 2025 as if I just enrolled into DaaS 3 days ago. I'm building my DaaS agency from scratch. And I did this from the perspective, guys, of I want to be more of that low fulfillment model DaaS agency, right? Where I provide the data to the clients and I'm kind of hands off. They take it and they run the marketing, the ads, the calling. Or some of you guys might be for more of that full stack agency that are providing the data and then running the ads, running the emails, running the SMS, running their CRM management, etc. I don't really think that part differs. Again, I just did this particular tutorial from the perspective of I just enrolled and I want a low fulfillment model agency. Really don't think that changes anything in terms of outreach. And what I show you throughout this video is the two channels I've seen. And again, speaking with dozens of dozens, there's 10 to 20 that come right to the top of my head. But I know there's more than that if I really put a lot of thought or went back and looked at all my records and data and calls. But I can think of the way 10 or 20 DaaS clients made their money back within the first 2 months in the channels they used. And what I've seen people have the most success with, particular people without a budget that aren't running ads for themselves to get clients. I'm doing cold outreach via email. I'm doing cold LinkedIn outreach. I'm doing some social media posting. I'm joining Facebook groups and getting people to raise their hands and then converting through the DMs, whatever, right? All those different things can be true. The two I've seen our clients have the best success with, and that I recommend starting out with or even doubling down on if you're already doing some other ones, are LinkedIn social media outreach as well as cold email. Those are the two I would recommend, and I recommend both channels for the first 60 days for two primary reasons. Number one, what you're usually going to find out if, let's just say, I'm sending 150 emails and 50 LinkedIn messages per day. I do that consistently for 30 to 60 days, more toward about 2 months to really to get the data in the right sample size. And what you're going to see from doing that is it's going to help us optimize and tweak our messaging. That's part of what we're doing anytime we run a new campaign. We're gauging how effective that messaging is. Is it actually getting people to raise their hand? Is it getting clicks? Is it getting whatever? And it's very imperative that you have an objective, which I don't ever recommend it to be sending people to some type of video or landing page or wanting a click with my first message, whether it's cold email or LinkedIn social media outreach. My personal immediate objective is to get them to raise their hand and say, yes, that solution would help me, or yes, I would like that result. It's just to get them to raise their hand and kind of say, I have interest in whatever that message is. And guys, we're going to cover some ideas of effective messaging. But within that tutorial, I run through the LinkedIn and cold email strategy I've seen clients have success with, I've had some success with, and I also run through, and you'll see in the description of that resource within number one, building your DaaS agency from scratch, down in the description of that will be the links to all the resources I cover in that tutorial. So I personally remember going over some templates and some scripts and some different messaging I've seen work, which I share with all of you guys down in the description. So if any of that sounds relevant or where you guys are lacking, I would probably pick up with number one and go watch this tutorial. It's less than 20 minutes after today's workshop. Go check this out. This will probably give you some direction back to that. So number two, which I kind of touched on, it's associated with our channel, but this is really the next step in what we're trying to do. First, we have to pick a channel and craft messaging, and then we can begin the testing, the optimization, and really dialing that messaging in, right? I think we could all agree we can't test and optimize messaging before we've crafted it and tested it through some type of channels, correct? I think we're all in pretty much agreement there. So next, I really want to be testing and optimizing. So based off X amount of emails, again, let's say 150 a day times 30 days a month times 2 months. I mean, we're talking over 10,000 emails by this point. You should have a demographic or a kind of result of how many of those got delivered, how many got opened, and how many got a hand raise or a positive reply. And based off those metrics, you should be able to see that's within KPI, above, below KPI. I cover some of those standard metrics on what I expect to see in the tutorial there. But again, it really helps us like dial in whether that messaging is effective. So I put an example of a school post in here, and I want to say I brought this up on this particular workshop within the last month, I want to say. Let me go back to this. I believe I still have it up on my screen. So yeah, it's right here. So this is one of the examples I linked in there, and something very simple. Guys, if we're doing cold email, cold LinkedIn outreach, primarily B2B. I'm guessing most of you guys are selling data to business owners and businesses. I would hope if you're trying to sell data direct to consumer, let's get a different business model and hit me up and let's talk about it and let me give you some other ideas. I don't think selling data to direct to consumer is very smart, and hopefully none of you guys are doing it. I heard it from one or two of you guys, and I kind of had to say, why are you doing that? What are you thinking? Let's get on a call. And I remember at least one person, I want to say two, but I remember one off the top of my head really quickly, like, oh my God, Ray, boom, kind of hit themselves on the head. I don't know why I was ever targeting this B2C market. It makes no sense now once you pointed out 3 or 4 things. But again, this is a really, really good example of what I keep preaching. I think people are overcomplicating, over elongating, just making it too long, or just trying to get too cute and clever with their messaging. You guys have heard this model out of my mouth a whole bunch as long as, anybody that's been following or working with me for a while. But I always say when it comes to messaging, clarity over clever, right? Try to be clear over clever. I think really the most effective messaging probably has a good dynamic of the both together. But I think a lot of people sacrifice the clarity of their message trying to get too cute and too clever. So, very quickly, as Cody says in this post in school from about 21 days ago, and I want to go back over the metrics before I get into the messaging. So, we ripped 20K plus cold emails a day for each of our DaaS clients. And here's an example of the copy and framework, the copy framework that has been smashing best. So this is a great sample size, 20K emails per day per client. Don't know how many days he tracked this, but I don't think Cody has ever dropped anything without a minimum of 7 to 14 days of data. So let's say 20,000 emails a day. Let's say minimum. He only did it for one client. Let's say he did it for 7 days. We're still talking 150,000 emails. That's still a great sample size. I know it's going to be higher than that based off all this, but he goes and shows you the framework that they used and that's smashing the best for DaaS clients right now. And it's that simple. It's just that simple. Hey, Bob, I'm sitting on a list of over 2,000 in market buyers actively looking for a new roof. Would you want to see it? Right? Sometimes it could be that simple. And again, all we're saying is we know before we sent this email, if we've done anything right, that this guy is a roofing company. I'm sitting on a list of 2,000 in-market buyers in Georgia, right? Go more specific to the guy's county or state, actively looking for a new roof, for solar panels, for a CPA, for a realtor, for a mortgage agent, for an insurance. Guys, the industry doesn't matter here. I'm hoping that's what you're seeing with this. You just have to understand what industry we're attacking or we're targeting and make sure that those are the people within your campaign. So you're not saying, hey, I'm sitting on a list of 2,000 people looking for a roofer, and you're sending that to a real estate agent, right? That person's not going to care. So as long as we have the niche right and who we're targeting and the right batch of emails, sure. Could you have 5 or 10 people that don't fit that? That's fine. If I send out 150 emails a day for a month and 10 to 15 of those each day go to the wrong person, I'm cool with that. That means 135 or 140 each day are going to the right crowd. Those are odds and metrics I'll take all day. I'm not saying we need to be 100%, but we want to make sure the people within our list that we're hitting with this email campaign are generally speaking within the certain niche or industry that this messaging is designed for. Now, you can take this messaging and you can make 7 different variations by changing about 4 words total and have a great message for a roofer, a great message for your solar client, a great message for your real estate, for your insurance. And it's very hard for me to read this. I'm an insurance agent. Somebody sent this, Ray. Hey, Ray, I'm sitting on a list of 5,000 people in Seattle currently looking for a life insurance policy. Would you like to see them? As a independent real estate agent, I'd be outside my mind to answer no to that question. It would just not make any logical sense. Doesn't mean I have to purchase right now. Doesn't mean I have to move forward. I at least want to find out where he's getting this list, if it's exclusive or shared, and how I get access to it. And then personally, for me, at minimum, I'm going to at least test one out and see if I get a deal and make an ROI on that. And if so, I'm going to be a customer for probably quite a while, right? I'm not going to say for life because things all change, but probably for quite a while. But hopefully you guys can see the effectiveness of very short, clear, concise messaging that says, I have X in this neighborhood looking for this solution. Would you want to see it? And again, why would you say no if you were the business owner? As long again, barring that you are looking to grow, scale, and land new clients. I'm not going to say there's no businesses that are, you know, that are kind of just complacent or happy or set with where they're at, and they don't want more clients. I don't think any of us are trying to target that business owner. So if we get that person, that's how and I had this conversation with Jeff the other day. Personally, that's how I disqualify. When I get on a sales call, it's probably one of the first 3 to 5 questions I ask somebody in the discovery phase. Hey, Bob, this data is super explosive and really helping businesses right now, but we are only working with people that are making a priority to grow and or scale their company in 2026. Does that encapsulate you, Joe? Oh, yeah, Ray, we're definitely a company. So boom, I'm pre-qualifying. Or if he tells me right there, hey, no, Ray, we're pretty good with where we're at. We're not really looking for growth or scaling. Great, Joe. Let's save us both some time and hop off this call right now because this data, this technology, and the people we're working with are only people that are serious and prioritizing growth and or scale of the business. You don't fall into that bucket, right? No, I don't. Great. Let's part ways. Here's my contact information. When you do get serious about looking to grow and scale, reach back out to me and let's have the conversation then. There's nothing wrong with doing that, guys. Matter of fact, there's a little more power in doing that than just trying to bend and flex and work with and sell to and make offers to non-ideal clients. We shouldn't be doing that. So But again, if I am one of those serious growth and or scale minded business owners, it's going to be very hard to say no to that question and that copy that I just gave you, right? So number three is, now that we are blasting messaging out, and let's just say you followed my recommendations here and you went back through this. We're blasting some daily messages on LinkedIn. We're blasting out some daily emails. We are testing and optimizing the messaging and starting with that framework that I just went over in number two in the example post I gave you, right? Next, what is our sales process, and are we driving people to sales calls, and how are those going? Or as Jeff led with, now Jeff was trying to automate his sales process. I'm not going to say again, right or wrong. It can be done and you can do it successfully. And I will give you a couple of examples of such. Do I recommend building out an automated sales process to sell DaaS? Heck no, not at all. I can't say not at all. In very, very limited instances, and I'll cover one or two of those. But generally speaking, if I just message somebody in an email, LinkedIn, they raise their hand, say they're interested. I send them a little info overview about how effective the data is and how it would work for their business and want to give them a sample. They say, yes, I'm interested. I send them to some automated web page, checkout link, yada, yada, yada. You're going to get a lot of times you send the link and nobody ever purchases. Let's just say that. You don't get a chance to really lock people down, to tie them down, to customize the pitch to them. You don't get a chance to personally overcome objections or find out where their hesitancy is and why they're not buying. And it really takes away from, number one, closed deals, which is most important. But number two, it takes away from a lot of the feedback that I can get off a sales call on why somebody didn't buy. And now I can go tweak my messaging to overcome that. Or I can know how to overcome that objection next time I get it because I wasn't familiar with it. And I kind of, let's just say we're not all perfect at sales. We're not used to this. We're kind of figuring it out and maybe, just off the cuff, trying to overcome an objection that next time, now that you've done it and you look back at it, you're like, oh, shoot, this is how I need to overcome that in the future. Or you take it back to me or send me the call recording and I give you the dialogue on how I would have overcome that, whatever. Now, again, the automated sales process I've seen work best with two primary criteria. One, selling the pixel, and two, targeting only more digital companies, physical products, e-commerce, drop shipping, some SaaS and tech companies in there possibly. But what we really missed with that, the biggest aspect that we missed that we do on a sales call is we assess the business owner. Now, it's really tough through an automated process to find out how much they're making, how much they'd like to be making, what's their current acquisition process, and how is that going? What are some of the big hurdles in their businesses? What are some of the goals and the roadblocks with why they're not achieving that? Are they serious and prioritizing growth and scale? These are things you can ask and really dial in on a sales call that are very, very difficult to do through an automated funnel. And if so, you're not doing it in real time where you can go back and forth. You're doing it on some type of form. You're getting the feedback and you're following up with the person through some type of message, email, SMS, whatever. So you're still not even able to take that data and kind of get it in real time, I guess is what I'm saying is the best way to say that. But most importantly is assessing that person's business. And as I went over with Jeff, some of the most important aspects. Number one, I already highlighted it. I do want to question in my process of prioritizing their company goals this year. Are they prioritizing growth and or scale mode? If yes, that already is a check in the box of pros as opposed to cons and reasons to work with this client, and kind of pre-qualifying them as an ideal client, right? So yeah, that's number one. Number two, what I always go into, and I just kind of highlighted, but I always ask them on that call, hey, Bob, over the last 6 months or so, what has been your primary acquisition channels? So what consistently brings you in the most leads or the most deals? And they might say paid ads. They might say cold email. They might say SMS. They might say a call center. They might say a combination of the three. They might say referrals. We could go on and on. Point is, once I find that out, helps me later when I get to and I'm going to pitch and present, because I'm going to customize the pitch and how I can take this data and embed it into their system that is currently working for them, right? That's where the data is going to work best, guys. The data is not going to work best with somebody that's not already getting clients, not already closing deals, doesn't already have an established successful business, and we're just going to come in and be the savior with data. Can that work and get them some deals? Yes, but is that ideal? Heck no, that's not ideal. Ideally, we want to work with people that are already doing some things right and throw data into their process to make it even smoother, make it faster, make it more profitable, drop costs. All those things are what we have the ability to do when we work with people. So When I speak with a business owner and ask him that question, his response might be, hey, Ray, we get a majority of our clients primarily through paid ads. Great. Now, when I get to the pitch, I'm going to show him exactly how I would pull this audience, layer it 3-tier, inject it into his ads, and build out the future expectations of what outcomes he should see. Lower cost per lead and acquisition by somewhere from about 25 to 40%. And that's going to be my whole sales cycle and my number one thing I focus on. Now, based on the conversation, my other questions, there might be some secondary things to that, but that is going to be first and foremost. Now, if he tells me, hey, Ray, I'm running a combination of cold email and SMS outreach. Great. I'm going to show how I would take the data and embed it into that process. And then maybe I would also recommend, hey, down the road, you might also want to try this in some ad campaigns if that's something you're open to and have a budget for them. But what I'm not trying to do is totally retract them onto something they've never done successfully and say, hey, take my data and go put it in this avenue that you're not currently doing or that you haven't done. That's been another mistake I've seen people make. Yes, I recommend using the data in ads, and I believe it works best for brands and companies in ads, meaning I can get the best message in front of the biggest audience the fastest and probably get the quickest bang for my buck using the data. That said, I'm never going to redirect a company to go that route that's not currently doing that because they still have to figure out setting up their ad manager, getting good creative. I don't care what data I'm giving them. If they've never created campaigns and they don't know what goes behind good creative in an ad campaign here in 2026, probably doesn't matter how good the data is I give them if their creative still sucks. So again, hopefully this is making sense, but I'm just taking you down the different questions I ask a business owner, what my brain is doing in the thought process, and how that's going to correlate into how I customize the pitch to that person later on in the call, which, as you guys know, are all part of the sales process. Now, the resource I put in here for the sales process is the same thing I gave away at 3:02 on today's call in the Zoom chat, 3:02 Eastern, and the same thing I give away at all of the beginning of my DaaS sales workshops. And these are all the best resources to build out your sales process within this document. So I know I've admitted a couple people onto the call after I've dropped this. I'll go redrop all these resources and links here momentarily. But for anybody that's unfamiliar, what I was talking about with kind of all the resources for your sales process within this document here, number 3, and the one I have highlighted and hovering my mouse on the screen there. This has everything you need from how I set up my sales process, call recordings, pitch decks, scripts, right? Messaging, marketing, just kind of everything you need to build out your DaaS sales process. So again, what I'm going to do is the link to this document, which I put together just for today's lesson, and all the resources incorporated in there. Again, I know I admitted at least 2 or 3 of you guys. So I'm going to go throw this link right here in the chat again. I just hit the enter button, so it shows it populated at 3:33 Eastern in the chat. That's the link to this document I'm covering, and the seller resources is number 3 within that link. So you'll have access to both right through that document. Okay, let me go back to kind of where I left off. So now we're into number 4, the sales process funnel. And this quick guide setup, again, is more, and I specify in this, and some of you guys might have got this. I think I dropped a post in school and a quick video within the last month. I know I filmed this and created this when I wasn't doing a workshop, so kind of on my own time. And I think I just went and shot, a Loom or YouTube video, and then I went and posted it in school. So some of you guys may have seen this. I'm guessing a majority don't because that's the way school works. I only see a vast minority of the posts and comments, and sure the same for everybody else. But this is kind of just a quick document I put together on kind of how to build out your DaaS sales funnel from scratch, more specific to the super pixel. And what I just talked about with the last topic we were going into, I was talking about Jeff about his sales process, how I don't really recommend an automated funnel for selling DaaS deals. I recommend the full sales process build out with sales calls. But I did say there's some outliers to that. And I know I have a few clients that are working specifically with e-com brands where they can drive them right to a checkout page for the pixel specifically. I still never recommend this when I'm talking about audiences. I don't recommend automating that at all for any business at this point. When we figure it out or when I see it work well, I will certainly share with you guys, but I haven't seen it be successful. As you know, here at AudienceLab, we don't send people just to a checkout page where they can go buy. They have to speak to a rep and have a call. And that's still truly what I recommend. But in certain cases, and here's a great example, and this document is number 4 in the other document I'm covering today. But let me just bring this up on my screen. Here's a great example of a landing page that one of our DaaS clients put together that he goes and sells the super pixel, and people can go right to this page. They can utilize the ROI calculator, which is brilliant. I wouldn't set this page up and try to automatically sell it or sell it automated without having the ROI calculator built in, because this is where the prospect actually sees the value and the return on investment. And that's probably going to be the number one factor behind him making a decision whether he buys or not. So if I know this is the number one factor and they see a clear ROI, and that's most likely to make them go buy, and I didn't have this on as an option, it would probably overall lead to a lot less deals. And again, the number one factor that leads to closing deals, I wouldn't want to not have in my page. You know what I mean? Um, so again, this page is pretty simple. Let's go over the headline: the smartest little pixel that prints you money. Lease the lead monster pixel. Same AI-powered tracking tech used by 8-figure ad agencies turns anonymous clicks into verified leads and buyers. We can possibly 3x your retargeting ROI, get up to an 80% match rate, lower lead cost of up to 67%, and about 40% better conversions on your website, right? So he highlights again down here those same 4 metrics, which I always say if I'm building out an automated page, I'm highlighting 3 or 4 of our main metrics. Some of the ones you guys hear me regurgitate, for lack of a better phrase, might be the 280 million users in our database, the 1.9 trillion behaviors that we can assess and diagnose on a daily basis, the 60 billion URLs we can search to see where people are landing and what their intent level is, right? These are all things that are on some of my landing pages and websites, right? These are the metrics that this guy chose to go with. He should have put an explainer video. He put the thing in here and coming soon, but it looks like he just didn't follow up or ever upload the video. I actually know that he made it because he sent it over to me for feedback, which I'm happy to give you guys on any of your messaging, whether that be through a script in a VSL speaking, whether that be your cold email messaging, LinkedIn outreach messaging. Never hesitate to DM me or shoot it over to me for feedback. I do really, really good with writing copy and just kind of reorganizing copy. A lot of my clients will write some copy. I'll be like, hey, that sounds good, Bob. But what if you reworded it this way? Which one sounds better to you? And he reads it back. He's like, oh, shit, Ray, yours sounds a little better. Let me go tweak mine and then send it. So happy to do that for anybody that sends me over their copy or shares it with me. I remember doing it for his video. But then as you see, if I want to go buy, I click on a button. I can get the pricing right there. I can get a 20% off if I want to buy a year membership, and I can get started right here. So again, I don't highly recommend this, but it works in certain cases. Works in this case where, again, he's working with primarily e-com brands. He did a very good job setting up the pixel calculator on his website so an e-com brand can just come there and say, hey, we get 20,000 hits per month. Our average order value is $80. Our cost per acquisition is $26, and our conversion rate is 5%. They type in those numbers, it'll say, hey, Mr. E-com store owner, do you know by not utilizing identity resolution technology in our super pixel, you're leaving $80,000 on the table each year that should be going back into your business? Would you like to buy the pixel for $1,000 a month to go make 80 grand this year? Right? It's very difficult to say no, but again, you have to have the right person in the right niche in the right industry to do this all automated. Hopefully that is making sense. What I also dropped in this document was the tutorial of how to assess the ROI. And again, I highly recommend doing this in person. Number 2 and 3 on this are more geared toward how I would sell the pixel on a sales call. Not to say not some of this is still relevant with doing it through a landing page or an automated process, but I think I've made very, very clear that I don't recommend that. Can it be done? Yes. Recommend it? No. So I think if I'm you and I'm going to be either in conversations or potentially selling the super pixel, I would want to watch this tutorial to make sure I am very confident and comfortable going to really assess the ROI for the client and how to do that properly. And then that gives me confidence with how to go pitch and how to price it, right? Number 3, as I cover how to, the third part of any closed deal, again, very basic. There's more steps to this. I just put it in the 3 simplest steps possible and the 3 things everybody has to do in each process. But again, the client contract and how to create that, I put the SOP there. In addition, I covered that a little more in today's lesson here, back to this main doc, where you'll see number 5, close deals, which is the next step. We just got through the sales process and funnel setup, and that's what I just covered. Close deals and client agreement, next steps, a 1-minute tutorial on me going over that and where you can find that very simply. And then, as I always say, the last aspect of this, because now that we've got messaging, we've dialed it in, we're booking sales calls, we understand how to assess, how to customize the pitch, we start pitching, closing deals, understanding how to get our client agreements done and all that. Then the last thing is fulfillment, right? And I always say, make sure we're building proper expectations with the client. This should be done as we're closing, but also into the onboarding process. You might do a little bit in both places. You might save it for one or the other, whatever. But just make sure we're building proper expectations, and then we fulfill. And as I covered on last week's session, when we got into the 7 main questions my DaaS clients get asked from their clients and how to overcome them, one was, hey, Ray, when I close the deal, how do I fulfill it and what am I supposed to be doing? And I always said there's 2 main components I would be doing regardless of if I am. And I think, again, it's a little more applicable to that low fulfillment hands-off model agency where I'm providing the data and you guys are running with it. I think this is more prevalent there, but this is still something I would be doing in a full stack agency. It just might be something I'm educated on them on and then doing for them, as opposed to a low fulfillment model agency. They're going to be doing this themselves. What do I mean by doing this themselves? I mean reactivating or activating the data. A low fulfillment model agency is going to provide the data to a client. They're going to go run with it and run it in ad marketing campaigns, email campaigns, cold calling, whatever. And more full stack agency is going to provide the data and build out those campaigns for the client. So you're just going to want to have to go over and educate them. You don't have to necessarily maybe film some tutorials or education. You can just have a conversation. But I always say, when I am that more low fulfillment model agency specifically, I film 2 very brief tutorials that I send to them with their first data list. And I say, this is what you should be doing with each list I provide. But I want to make most important to me that I provide it on onboarding when a client first buys a list, and just say, hey, this doesn't change when you buy list 2, 3, or 4. And maybe I send it each time, right? I think that's kind of irrelevant. But number 1, best practices on activating or reactivating the data. This is how I shoot that video and say things to clients. Hey, you just enrolled into XYZ company, and we see that you're buying a data list from us or an audience using your marketing campaigns. Let me give you a little rundown of the best practices and the best ROI I've seen my clients have with utilizing the data now that you're going to be getting a list. Number 1 is within paid ad campaigns. Number 2 is within cold email. Number 3 is SMS. And number 4 is cold calling, in that order. So 1 through 4, that's the best ROI and quickest return on investment I've seen for my clients taking these data lists and reactivating them into their marketing campaigns. Is it always those 4 in that order? No, there might be an outlier. And again, if my business that I am providing this list to and shooting this video, if I did my thing right in the sales process and I assessed their current acquisition channel and what they're doing effectively day in and day out, to get in new deals, I'm gonna kind of tell them, hey man, you're gonna build this right into that exact process, kind of, if that makes sense. I'm trying to keep it very, very basic without getting too in the weeds, but so, and as I always tell people, let's say that business owner I spoke with was a solar company that does primarily cold calling. Although I just said 1 through 4 cold calling came in last, cold calling still may be the most lucrative and the best for this guy because that's his existing business, his channel, his foundation. If they're doing cold calling, they probably have a call center, some qualified outbound reps, and an SOP to make sure they're within compliance. So number 1 is the 4 best practices. Now, whether you want to shoot these 2 videos separate or combine them, I don't think it makes much of a difference. To me, it makes a little more sense to combine them, but there's been certain times where somebody's only asked for one or the other, and it was nice to have an evergreen resource to just go grab and send them without filming something new, right? But you can just say right within that first one, or you can do it separate. Let's follow step 2 here, the compliance SOP and best practices. So I just mentioned the best ways and the ways I see the data reactivated most profitably from my existing clients that buy lists from me. Do you want to know why that is and a little more about the compliance? Let me tell you there, Mr. Joe, the business owner. Number 1, and why I say ads is the best in terms of quickest ROI, because the data is almost going to be 100% compliant at all times without any other parameters with just uploading it into there. Now, there are always those outlier guys. How much you want to put into this? I wish I never had to say this because I only have 1 or 2 clients that have ever been in these industries trying to use our data. But I always like to just specify for those 1 or 2 outliers. The only times I get a little more apprehensive or hesitant about saying the data is best in ads is for the special category people, right? Those people with CBD, adult toy products, 18 or 21 plus. Just think, if you're in any industry where you or your client is just selling 18 to 21 plus adult products or services, it may be a little different with the ads, and you're probably going to have to go more custom models than building in-market audiences. But again, that's a story for another day, and that's a vast, vast minority. Let's say we're just dealing with regular physical products, services, services, normal everyday realtors, agencies, mortgage owners, solar, e-com, doctors, lawyers, right? Any other industry that's not within that 18 to 21 plus realm, I would say, hey, our data is always going to be compliant in your ad campaigns, and you can get it in front of the biggest audience the fastest with your best messaging and ads. That's why I see it work best. Now, to be compliant within emails, and hopefully you're already doing this, Joe, but with my first party data and loop it into email, to your email autoresponder or your email campaigns, to be compliant, you just need 4 things included in your email: your name, your business address, and a clear opt-out. Hopefully you're already doing that, but as long as you do that with our data, you will be compliant in email. With SMS, you just need 3 of those 4 things. You don't need the business address. You need your name, your business name, and a clear opt-out. As long as you have those within the SMS outreach, you will be compliant. And cold calling, what I recommend for every business owner is whatever list I provide to you, if you're going to cold call it, run it through one outside do not call list registry source and just double check that none of the numbers are on there. I tell every client, I think most of you guys would be aware or agree with, one of the easiest ways to follow compliance as a business owner, as a marketer, is to pick up the phone and dial 3 numbers in a row that are on the do not call list. See how quick you are getting shut down or fined or restrictions or violations or whatever they come at you with. So again, and hopefully that's making sense to everybody, but I shoot a quick little video saying these are the 4 most profitable and lucrative channels to reactivate them in this order. This is what you need to do to be compliant with each of those 4, right? If we're creating that with those are where 80% of your objections, your I want to say kind of misconceptions within the market will be around compliance and legal. How do I take the data and react? That's where everything comes with, like, number 1, their mindset and what might stop them from utilizing the data. And number 2, just kind of logistically, the implementation and execution of embedding the data into campaigns and giving them suggestions and best practices of what works best. Now, I say lastly, C, fulfillment does vary depending on services provided. So with A and B, I would always be doing that in my low fulfillment model agency. C is more varying depending on your full stack agency. If you guys are also offering ad services or email campaigns, there's stuff that I'm not going to direct you on here because I'm directing you as a DaaS agency. You may provide those other services. And again, I would say just make sure you are giving best practices on how to go do that. You're educating, or you're telling people how they can loop the data into that. Maybe you're running Facebook ads and tell them how you have my Facebook ad standard or my Facebook ad premium package that you might want to buy. My premium package is a little more, but it's for my real advertisers that are looking for in-market, first-party, intent-driven data to drive lower costs, or we have my standard ad package that isn't data-driven, right? So that could be one just little tweak that you are highlighting, and that's the quickest way I found for a Facebook agency to seamlessly embed data into their agency and go upsell it. Same thing you were currently doing. Let's say you have a $2,000 a month Facebook ad agency package. Now I would have a $2K per month and a $3K per month. The $3K, I would label my premium ad package, and I would embed first party in market quality data, a list with each month. As opposed to the other people, you have to go through Facebook's in-platform targeting and the learning phase and waste some of your budget. And again, I'm happy to talk about all those things more if people need help understanding that. But again, that's kind of what I meant by varies on service provided. I think when we're building the right expectations, that's always going to vary for some other services you may or may not provide, right? And lastly, I just wanted to put number 7. Again, wish I didn't have to say this, but I always just want to cover my bases and make sure we're all on the same page. I think this is kind of common knowledge and sense, but it says the numbers 1 through 6 that I covered that we want to go implement if we're not able to yet monetize the data, or you haven't made a profit on your AudienceLab membership / subscription yet. You want to go through these 6 things. But guys, those are, of course, contingent upon being proficient with building audiences. If we're building half-assed audiences, I don't care how good your messaging is, how good your campaigns, your emails, all that stuff. If we're pulling crappy lists, half-ass lists, we're not dialing in the right keywords, the right intent, the right parameter filters, the right geographical locations, the right credit scores, all the things we can do to really dial in these lists. If we're not confident, and as I say, picking up right from, kind of after the word audiences in the semicolon, if you don't feel that you're confident as such with building audiences, I highly recommend going back to the Getting Started with AudienceLab module and the correlating tutorials within there, as well as attending data strategy workshops regularly. Those are by far the 2 most common and effective ways that people are leveling up their audience building skills and proficiency, within the resources and services and, assets that we provide. So, all right. I went through that whole session. I talked a real lot. That's kind of what I do, but I saved about 10 minutes here. I would love to hear back from anybody on the call in terms of if anybody has any questions, thoughts, best takeaway, whether you just want to type in the chat or if you're willing to speak and speak, type a 1 in the chat and I will call on you so I can hear your feedback, your question. Or if you just have thoughts and feedback, you can type them in the chat. Oh, I just see one in there from Crystal. Very helpful. Thank you, Ray. Great, great. Good. I mean, that's all I want out of this is for it to be helpful. I don't know if you were on at the beginning, Crystal. You might have been somebody I admitted halfway in, but I said right at the top, I put this together with the really hopes of this being helpful and beneficial to anybody that was able to attend today or that watches the replay. I try not to put these lessons together just for content or fluff, but more for effectiveness and what people are really struggling with and what you can do to overcome and go implement and execute. So I appreciate you saying so, Crystal. I do see a handful of other people still on the session, but nobody else with questions or thoughts. Again, I'll give it one more minute. Rodney, great. Feel free to unmute. Go ahead. I'd love to hear your questions or feedback. The mic is yours.
Hey, Ray. Great workshop today. I really got a lot out from it. I am actually. I've been actually trying to reformulate my offer, and I want to kind of just get out there and just start using this data. Get in front of like as many people as possible. And I just created a audio script for my VSL. Okay, and I'm actually using a AI provider to like do like the audio for me, and I can kind of go through it, and it makes it, I can just type in exactly, and I can kind of make my own character, kind of do what it needs to do for me.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if I had like my copy, if I could just like let you hear it or look at it.
What I would recommend, yeah, 100%. I'm happy to give you some feedback and go over that. Can you shoot me a DM with the link to the video or the copy, whatever you have? I will go through it and I will give you some feedback. I always do within 24 hours.
Yeah, that's totally cool. Yeah, that'd be great.
Shoot me a DM in the school community, in the school group there, Rodney, and I will check it out and I'll get you some feedback within the next business day.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot. But yeah, everything was really good today. I'm just gonna I wanted to try to get like an ad copy that I wanted to like get out there. Is there a recommendation for like building the actual ad that you're gonna put out? Because I haven't put it.
Great question. What I would say to that, and I'm going to screen share and go back to something that I gave you guys all today and I send out every week. So within number 3 of this document, the seller resources, or if I just go open the seller resources, now number 3 on this one where it says current ads and email messaging creative, what I've done here, Rodney, is I put about 10 of our most current ad campaigns or the ones that are most profitable, and I put them right into this document. So I'll even open it and show you real quick. Let me just click on it and just show everybody else but you'll see example 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, it goes down to 11. So these are 11 examples of ad campaigns that we are currently running. Throughout going through these, this should give you the idea of the structure you want to put together. Now, do you want to copy any of these word for word? No. But by going through a couple of these, you'll understand the video and creative format we're using, the angles and hooks that are working, and you could see which one is most relevant to your audience, your niche. But that's a great example to really get the creative juices flowing on how to put together your own ad campaigns. And that would kind of be my template if I were you.
Okay. All right. Thanks a lot. That's excellent. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Oh, quite. You're very, very welcome. I appreciate your feedback. And thank you for saying, this had some value and you picked up something and learned something here today. That's my challenge to you guys from here forward out of what I covered today. And that, let's say 1 through 6 on that document, where are you at and which one are you going to go implement and execute on first? And that's all I want each of you guys to do. I don't care if you pick one of those things, if you need to take a week or 2 and rework on all 6 of those, but at minimum, I would love you to pick out one or your starting point and really get started in implementing and executing. Because as I always say, guys, I can run these sessions and these trainings and you guys can listen to me talk and it can be great. But if nobody actually picks up these strategies or approaches or resources and goes and implements them into their thing, I feel like I'm doing this for nothing, right? I'm not doing this for nothing. I want to see you guys get results with it. And the way to get results is to simply implement and execute. There's no other, sugarcoating that, right? That's like saying, hey, I want to start dating a new person, but I'm not going to go out and ask anybody out. It's like, how are you ever going to get in a relationship, but you're never going to ask anybody out? How am I going to close a deal, but I'm not making any offers or sending out any messages, right? So we have to put the actions and behaviors behind the results and outcomes that we say we want. It's very easy to say, I want to make money and I want to close deals, but are you truly aligning with your actions and behaviors, what you need to do to make that a reality, right? So that's what this whole sheet that I covered today boils down to, guys. So great. I'm glad you guys find this helpful. Again, make sure everybody, I'm about to hop off in a minute, so make sure the Google Doc I dropped here in the Zoom chat, you guys have already clicked on it, opened it, saved it, bookmarked it, downloaded it, whatever the hell you guys do. And we will see you guys all here, same time, same place next Tuesday for another DaaS sales workshop. Last thing I always close this with, today's replay will be uploaded into the school community within the sales channel. So you see about a quarter way down the screen, there's different channels. It says like wins and case studies, announcements, this and that. There's a sales one in there. If you go look in the sales channel, my replays are uploaded to that channel each week, and today's will be no different. Before the end of the day, this replay will be uploaded there. And other than that, we'll see you all next week. Thank you for your participation, kind words, and your attendance and attention. All right, guys, have a good rest of your day. Bye-bye.